The Democrats' entire platform summed up in one sentence: whatever Trump is for, we're against. In fact, Trump, if he came out anti-Trump, the Democrats would be pro-Trump. That's how sick it is. We have an unbelievable amount of material to go through today. This could take 3 hours and we wouldn't get through it all. There's so much going on, so much great stuff. Okay, things are happening. Trump has sped up everything about the world. Okay, this is going to be Forgiveness Friday, One Nation Under God. We'll get to that. This is also Fired Up Friday. I'm going to get right into it. My wife and I like to skip the intros to TV shows, so today we're skipping the little intro we like to do. I want to play this to get us going. This is right after the Virginia election a few weeks ago, where they slightly, 49-51, the citizens supposedly voted for the new redistricting plan that the Democrats put in. Listen to what he has to say.
Well, what a night in Virginia. We keep saying it. When we fight fire with fire, we win. And we are winning all across the United States, in state houses, in courthouses, and now in the court of public opinion. But what is at stake is putting a stake in the heart of the Trump administration by taking back the House of Representatives and taking back the United States Senate. MAGA, dare I say, they're losing at their own game. They're on the defense and they're scared.
Okay. I mean, Mussolini, you got to laugh at this guy. What a buffoon. But what did he say in there? What he's talking about was the election to gerrymander and get Virginia to have 100% Democrat congressional seats and no Republican seats. He didn't mention a policy. He didn't mention what they stood for. He talked about winning in the state houses and in the courts around gerrymandering. What does that translate into? The only thing we have is our quest for power. James Carville, the only moral imperative is power. Why? Because we can't do anything unless we have power. That's what the founding fathers were talking about when they said that they built a system for a religious and moral people. Why? Because they needed to guard against that. It doesn't mean that a religious and a moral person won't be subjected to their own failings and be subject to, being a sinner and being corrupt too. It just means you have a slight edge to prevent it. When you have no religion, you have no morality, there's no speed bumps. And we're seeing that with these Democrats. I want to go back and I want to put up something we've used before, but I want to read it again. I think right after playing that clip, I want to have us take a look at the great Thomas Sowell's words. Okay, let me blow it up a little bit. Okay, the real motives of liberals have nothing to do with the welfare of other people. Instead, they have two related goals: to establish themselves as morally and intellectually superior to the rather distasteful population of common people. We just saw that. He seemed to have said it wrong. MAGA is what he meant. He's looking down on them, on us. Remember deplorables? Remember we cling to our guns and our religion? Okay, they look down on us. They think they are better than us. They want to control us. Second part. And to gather as much power, there's the moral imperative, as possible to tell those distasteful people, us, how they must live their lives. We see that in there. We need the power. Go get the gerrymandering and move it around so we have power. Why? He doesn't give you the why there. He doesn't say because we want to do good for people. Why? Because they're just going to do whatever they want. James Carville, I say it all the time as we're saying, he recommends to lie if you're a Democrat. Don't talk about it. Don't run on it. Just get in and rule that way. Left. Okay, so I'm watching all this stuff and I'm looking around saying, where is the Democrat that's going to sit down and say, well, let's go to the America First agenda, Trump's agenda? Where's the Democrat that can go get on TV and say, I really think that we should be paying Iran billions of dollars like Obama was because they should have a nuclear weapon? They're not going to say that because they can't get elected. But that's what Obama was doing once he had the power. Where is the Democrat who's going to get on camera and say, listen, we're going to take as much money from you as possible. And when we tell you we're going to tax only the wealthy, we're really going to tax the middle too. But we aren't going to tell you that. It's going to be like boiling a lobster. We're going to get you in the pot and then we're going to boil you. They can't. But that's what they're doing. Look at New York. The wealthy people, Griffin, who can afford to leave, are leaving. But they're already going for the middle class. How can I say that? Look what New York's trying to do now. They're trying to lower the threshold for the death tax to $750,000. What's the average cost of a house in New York City? An apartment. Got to be more than that. And then they want to tax it at 50% at death. The Democrats can't run on these things. There's nothing they can run on. They're anti-Trump. All they want is power. Instead of sitting back and saying, wait a second, things might be pretty good. They can't do that. Why? Because they're corrupted. By the way, I mention often, I don't think the elections are legitimate. I believe 2020 was corrupted. Susie Wiles just came out and essentially said the same thing, the president's chief of staff. I'll know when the elections are legitimate. How? When I see Democrats start to change their policies in relation to the people's voting. What do I mean by that? There's the largest wealth transfer of all time going on right now, with going from blue states to red states. Ken Griffin is one. What's the guy's name? I forget his name. It's not Rowan, I don't think, but one of the head of Apollo, a big private equity fund. He's moving. Ken Griffin said, all my friends from Chicago, they're now here in Miami. I used to have a chart. I don't have it up right now, but trillions are leaving the blue states for the red states. Even Kathy Hochul from New York says, we got to convince them to come back. She didn't say, we're going to convince them by changing our policies because they're voting with their feet. She's not saying that. Why? Aren't politicians afraid that they'll lose their elected office? No, they don't seem to be afraid. Look at California. They don't seem to be afraid at all. So what's going on? This is how I will know. This is how I will know when things are legitimate again. When Democrats start voting, when Democrats start changing their policies. They're just not changing their policies. Why? Because they don't fear at all being run out of office by the voters. It's as simple as that. I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Give me some data. Give me the opposing argument. Let me hear what's really happening. If that's not what's happening, because that's what I see happening. All politicians for my whole lifetime, they would have to cater to the electorate. By the way, when James Carville says lie, he's doing that. He's catering to the electorate. He's saying they want to hear you say something that you're not going to say. Just get in and rule the other way. Then you'll get unelected in the next term. He's not worried about that because the elections are corrupted. All right, I'm going to put up this next one because this makes this point in a different way. And it transitions us over to California. California, you can't really see this, I don't think, but California has more in Medi-Cal fraud than 29 states spend in their entire budget. Are you kidding me? Now, by the way, people don't talk about this much. We all think of that as just being California money. No, it's not. What ends up happening is our federal government, our tax dollars, gets brought into Washington. Keep in mind a mantra that I always mention. The government has no revenue. They have no money unless they take it from us. When they talk about revenue, that's our tax dollars. They took it from us. They don't make anything. They take our money and then they funnel it through this web of intergovernment transfers, I think is what they call them. And there are all these formulas that send money to the states. And then what do the states do? The states sometimes have legal leeway and other times just make up the leeway and spend it on whatever they want. So part of that $50 billion a year in Medi-Cal fraud is our money if you don't live there. Of course, it's obviously Californians' money. Okay, now that's going to transition us. The Democrats have no platform, they have no ideas, they're just anti Trump. Why is the LA mayor's race so important? I am going to harp on this until this guy, Spencer Pratt, knock on wood, wins on June 2nd. The LA mayor's race is the proxy fight for the battle between the left and the right for America. It is the proxy fight for everything that's going on, but it's an easier fight to understand because it's distilled down. What do I mean? When you think about what Trump's doing, he's making America great again, but he's got to worry about a nuclear Iran, China, and what are they doing in the South China Sea? He's got to worry about Russia and Ukraine. He's got the Europeans. He's got oil. He's got to go get Maduro and snatch him from his bedroom in the middle of the night. He's got to work with the Israelis. He's got to work with the Arabs. He's got a lot of things going on. And that wasn't even the domestic stuff. The fight in LA distills it all down into one. It's a big city, but it's one place. So we just get to focus on what's important to our day-to-day life. I did it poorly yesterday. I tried to use my dad used to go to California, San Francisco, and LA every summer in the 70s. And why did he go? Because he always said that the cultural trends, particularly food for him back then, came from the West to the East. He said California is essentially a culturally important place. Now, it's not the same because we have the internet and the world's much smaller. But the two super cities, LA and New York, are still super cities. And California is still a culturally important place for us. And LA, even more than San Francisco, because of the entertainment industry, is an important place that we all sort of look to. We don't want to, or we don't really mirror their morals and their values, but it is still a culturally important place. So this mayor's race is more important than if it was the mayor's race of Peoria. First of all, it's way bigger. But by the way, this is a more important race than the race Mandami just won a little while ago. So we get this distilled version of what's really going on. How is it distilled? I lived in LA for almost 20 years, and I can tell you that parks, I was raising my daughter. She was born out there, and we left when she was about 12, I think, 11 or 12. Parks are of major importance for people in LA. Parents go to parks with their kids all week, not just on Friday and Saturday. They can be there before school. In fact, there are some parks. I know a park in Studio City that essentially had like a school in the park. Parks are seriously important. Why am I mentioning that? Because when Spencer Pratt mentions that he wants moms to be able to go to a park without having to worry about the zombie drug addicts, being there and either trying to, interact with them, but having their kids see a needle or what, that's real. The LA mayor's race takes all the big, heady political issues and gets it right down to, I want to walk to my park tomorrow morning, and I don't want to see a drug addict or needles anywhere. And I just want to go and have a great time with my kid. I want to live in my house and not have my house burned down. I want to be able to drive down the street and not to have to see, instead of stores, encampments of homeless people. I want to see, instead of Medi-Cal stealing $50 billion a year of my money, I want my money to go to places like making my park better. Okay, that's the essence of why this race is so important. Now I'm going to play 3 videos. This is the first one. This is the new ad. This guy, let me take a quick detour. We saw Trump in 2016. He was a TV star with a reality TV show, and he, before that, got on every camera he could ever get on with his promotions of his various projects and trying to be culturally helpful and helping society advance. He's been talking about these situations in Iran and China since he was in his 30s. He had a massive social media following. So when he started to run for president, what he didn't need, which is what every other person in the history of presidential races has needed when they started to run, was name recognition. Why is that so important? Because you can't believe, you might be, roll the film back. Bill Clinton in 1992, very few people outside of Arkansas and maybe some in the South knew who this guy was from Arkansas. Very few people. He needed to go to all the states and start to corral people and develop a list. Okay, Johnny's with me up in New York. Billy's with me up in Boston. And each one of those people was a politically connected person in those communities. And then when he got in, that entire list was a list of IOUs. And it was tens of thousands long. When Trump went to Washington in 2017, he had no list because he had an X, or at that time Twitter, following that was so massive. All he had to do was tweet something out, and he got press for 3 days. He already had name recognition, and now not only did he have name recognition, but he was driving the storylines. The storylines weren't what somebody else wanted. They weren't what Hillary wanted. They were whatever he tweeted about. That's what this guy is doing, Spencer Pratt. He understands this way better than these other two idiots, Bass and Rahman. By the way, we're going to see the infighting now. Now that things are getting tight, those two are going to start to call for the other one to leave the race. All right, let me play you this new ad. It's just watch it.
Turns out it's a lot easier to fight fires when there's water in the reservoirs. We're even allowed to arrest criminals now, with handcuffs and everything.
I don't have to wonder anymore whether I just stepped in human shit or dog shit, so that's nice.
I only see needles in the hospital now. Who knew it could be this way?
I love going to the park now that it's not an open drug market.
Okay, who here is willing to admit that common sense actually turned out to be good?
I feel safe walking her. She's definitely having a Pratt summer.
Who's having a Pratt summer?
Heck to the yeah, LA is worth saving. Not just because I live there, but because it's important to America. It will make Trump's job easier for sure. It'll make all of our lives better for sure. Why? Because we'll have a contrast. We'll actually be able to show San Francisco, LA, but we'll show before and after LA. I've been saying that if you can vote Pratt in on June 2nd, by Labor Day, LA will look like it was 2012. More work to do even then, but way better than it is now. He obviously, with his Pratt summer, is saying we're going to go way faster than that. We're going to clean things up immediately. And here's the good news. He can, because as he points out, common sense things, there are laws on the books, like that cop said, we're just going to arrest people that break the law. Or like the firefighter said, there is a reservoir that's there for potential fires, we're going to fill it. Oh, common sense. It'll be contrast before and after. Okay? The problem for the left always is, once they get control, everything that they do is suffering, chaos, and death. So the contrast, if you can get somebody like Trump in or like Pratt in, is unbelievable and will drive more of that around the country. I want to play a couple of other videos. This guy uses social media better than Trump. Okay, not way better because Trump's great, but this guy uses AI, and I don't think that he made this next one, but he uses social media unbelievably well, and he's great in terms of just being able to, again, be commonsensical. I've said this before about Trump. Trump probably isn't a genius. He doesn't need to be. All he needs to do is use common sense. No, Iran shouldn't have a nuke. Okay, watch this one.
You're going to watch today as Mayor Bass and Spencer Pratt attack me.
gonna talk about me. They're gonna say that I should.
Drop the race.
Please talk about me. Make the whole city know my name. Hi, my name is Nithya, and the worse LA gets, the more money I make. Please talk about me.
A random city council member who's been a failure for 6 years.
Please research how much of your tax money has gone to my NGO, FELAH, Neighborhood Homeless Coalition.
I don't think he did that one, but whoever did is taking a tip from him when he said on camera the other night, Google, and he said what to Google so people could fact check Bass about the wins in real time. Okay, so I'm sure, I hope, I guess, Bass and Rahman are making some of those videos or having somebody make those videos, but I haven't seen them. Negative on Spencer Pratt. They're probably out there. But he's overwhelming the system with these types of things. I think it's every day he has a new commercial, maybe more. But it's overwhelming. It's always out there. And people are fed up. Okay, one more, because this is an interview he does. Just listen to the common sense. Like, this is not hard to be. You don't have to go to Harvard for this stuff. Here it is.
It seems that the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah, thankfully, all my supporters in Los Angeles are Democrats. Everyone I know, my family, are all Democrats. I grew up in LA. I went to Crossroads. Everybody that texted me last night, amazing, congratulations, are all Democrats. So what people are confused on, the Democrats all are behind me. It's just the socialists and the communists that don't back me. But no, I'm confident I'm probably going to win with 51% on June 2nd, because I don't do a political message. I don't do national politics. I don't do tribal politics. I don't talk about other states. I'm localized. I just want to fix our streets, get the lights on. I want people to feel safe. I want to get our tax money to not be robbed by these literal criminal NGOs stealing from our tax to increase the homelessness. So my message isn't political, it's common sense. So I have Democrats love me, Republicans love me, independents love me, libertarians love me, constitutionalists love me. It's just socialists and communists.
Okay. And by the way, he's right. He's right. All right, we're gonna move on from this, but this race out there is unbelievably important for America. June 2nd, I think he can actually get his 50.1% or 51%, just over the 50% line, and then Pratt Summer. And we'll see the contrast. By the way, or he'll fail. Maybe they can sabotage everything enough so he can fail. Who knows? I mean, I don't think so, but it's possible. Okay, we're going to move on. It's Forgiveness Friday, Fired Up Friday, but I want to save a couple minutes at the end for some forgiveness stuff. I'm gonna have to skip some of this because it's just so crazy good. We've had great numbers on employment, 115,000 new jobs. We haven't seen that in a long time. And we had a revision up, which was unusual, of February's numbers. So good things are happening there. I want to play, I often refer to Promethean action. I want to play because I want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on Trump's agenda and what Trump is doing, because it's important and it's working. Okay, this is Susan Kakinda and Barbara Boyd are the two most front-facing people from Promethean Action, but this is Mike Steger. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know, Mike. This is a 17-ish minute video. I tried to break it down to one little piece. I want to play it and then talk about it.
But the context for this is globalization, the British system that enabled global corporations, including China's state-backed corporations, to dominate global trade against the interests of sovereign nations.
Hear how I
Russian will finance Iran. But the context for this is globalization, the British system that enabled global corporations, including China's state-backed corporations, to dominate global trade against the interests of sovereign nations. Consider Brazil. In the 1970s, Brazil was the 8th largest economy on earth, growing fast enough to surpass France and the UK in per capita GDP by the 90s. After World War II, Brazil built up a real industrial base, from aircrafts, autos, and steel to machinery, hydropower, and consumer goods. Today, Brazil's industrial exports have collapsed, while iron ore, crude oil, and soybeans dominate. They have become an exporter of raw materials, a colonial model, not an industrial nation. This is the intended effect of globalization. When Beijing entered the WTO in 2001, Brazil was fully re-engineered as a commodity exporter for the Chinese industrial machine. This is the British system of free trade in full force.
Okay, now the whole thing is worth watching. You'll see it, my X thread, the Ord American on X. I have all of these in there in the last, 24 hours. Okay, what is he saying? You had Brazil, who had a diversified manufacturing things that they made. And what he didn't say, but it's implied, is Brazil first, good for the Brazilian people, jobs, etc. And the money stayed within their territory. When the British imperial system, the colonial system, came in through China, when China was welcomed into the World Trade Organization, what did they do? They said, don't manufacture all that stuff in your country. We can make it 10 times cheaper in ours, and you'll just buy it from us. But we can get iron ore from you and soybeans from you, and you'll sell those to us. So on the surface, you think, well, that sounds like a good trade. No, that's wealth extraction. They're getting rid of more important things to build and be making things in their country. And they're allowing the British imperial system to extract wealth from their country. That's one of the things he's getting at. That's one of the things Trump is trying to change, or is changing. Sovereign nations, Brazil doing what's best for Brazil, America doing what's best for America. Trump is going to China here next week. Is it the 14th? Yeah, next week. And we're going to see what happens. But Trump has changed the entire world on China in basically less than a year. If China can get on board, which I think that they can, and realize, oh, like we can do China first, we'll have little disagreements with them, but we'll keep them small because we just want things to be great here. That's what's going on. That's a brief sort of overview of the Trump plan or the Trump doctrine, but it is of major importance because you're taking away this British colonial imperial system where it's wealth extraction, and the country, the United States or Brazil or others, are essentially used. Did you ever see, I didn't actually read the books, I didn't have any interest, but my daughter and my wife read The Hunger Games, and then I did watch some of the movies. That's a dystopian view, but it's not far off from a later stage of the industrial colonial extraction game. We want to make all these places serve us. We're going to extract wealth and get rich, and we're going to make you poorer. Brazil is poorer today than they were back then. Okay, we're gonna move on, but I want to mention that what Trump is doing, jobs are coming, manufacturing is coming, the stock market is roaring, Bitcoin, as I mention all the time, freedom money. Everybody should own some, I think. So everybody should go and do the research. Not financial advice. I'm just a guy in front of a flag who loves his God, his country, and his family. Don't take financial advice or medical advice from me, but use this information as a stepping stone to go and do your own research. Okay, Forgiveness Friday. So as I get myself worked up when I see the Mussolini stuff, when I see we haven't even, we did a great episode on Obama and some of the things that he was up to with Eric Holder, et cetera, a few days ago. And I can get upset about that stuff because I had to listen to Obama say, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. And then I couldn't keep my plan. Or he's going to save me $2,500. And no, he cost me $2,500 a month. So I can get angry and upset about that. I don't want resentment to take over my heart and my body because resentment is a killer. The left is entirely resentment. Blacks should hate whites. Women should hate men. Gays should hate straights. Everybody's being oppressed. You've got the oppression Olympics. Who's the highest on the list? Okay? That's resentment building. The left uses resentment because us humans are prone to it. We fall for it. Why? Because we're human. It's easier to say, yeah, that guy sucks. He's got something that I want. I deserve it. We're seeing this. I'm not going to play it, but that clip that AOC has out there with this nonsense about you can't earn $1 billion. This is resentment. She's trying to create resentments. What's the antidote to resentments? The antidote to resentments is forgiveness. It's for the forgiver, not the forgivee. If you are a leftist and you're watching this, which I hope is happening, okay, there is an antidote to your crazy resentments. It's forgiveness. And I want to draw a distinction here. I get this question a lot. There is a difference between forgiveness and being a doormat. You don't have to be, thank you, sir, may I have another? If you remember the great, inappropriate comedy, Animal House from the 70s, the young Kevin Bacon, when he's getting paddled in an initiation ritual, and he says, thank you, sir, can I have another? Yeah, that's not forgiveness. You can put up a boundary. Okay, Trump does this unbelievably well. But if you're a leftist, you don't have to be filled with resentment. You also don't have to give up your point of view. You should, because it's wrong, but you can believe mistakenly that nobody can earn $1 billion without cheating. That's not true, but you can believe that. But you don't need to be filled with the resentment. You don't need to hate the other person. Remember the beginning of Marxism. Marx said that the proletariat would rise up because they just hated being controlled by, the bourgeois, by the richer people. What happened? It never happened. So what did Lenin do? Lenin said, don't you worry. I'll make them fight. And then the Frankfurt School and others realized, okay, you can't really do the bloody revolution in America. Things are too stable. The middle class is too great in America and it's too big. What will we do? We'll use the resentments and the weakness in our own human minds. We're all susceptible to it. So on Forgiveness Friday, we can practice forgiving small things, okay? We don't want any resentment. We don't want any hatred. And in fact, in the Bible, we're not supposed to have any. Why? Because it's a killer. It's a killer of our soul. It pollutes our mind, and it makes us feel and think wrong things. I couldn't even speak those words. Okay, that's Forgiveness Friday today. We want to practice forgiveness. Even the left can choose. If you have TDS, you can choose to forgive Trump. You don't have to change your point of view. You should, because you're wrong, but you don't have to. You will be better off if you relieve yourself of that resentment, that anger. You can forgive him. He's just a human being. He's like all of us. We make mistakes, whatever your exercise is in forgiveness. Okay? All right, that's Forgiveness Friday. Now, one more thing. I wanted to get to this for a few days. I want to put this up here, and then I want to go back to it. Let's see. Can we see that? Yeah, I think that's easier to see. Okay. Denmark sparks backlash over meat limits for nursing home residents. Copenhagen guidelines restrict government-run nursing homes to just 2.8 ounces of beef, lamb, or veal per resident each week. Politician Brigitte Keller Holst defended the policy by saying every generation must help meet climate goals. Critics accused officials of punishing elderly residents after Holst said older generations had screwed up the climate the most. Okay, give you an example, like go to Outback, you can get the choice, I think, of like a 12 ounce or a 16 ounce steak. Most of them are probably in around that 10 or 12 ounce now. Today, with the shrinking, maybe they're 8 ounces, but that's in one meal. They're saying this for a whole week for elderly people. And by the way, elderly people, they need more protein, not less, because they suffer from what's called sarcopenia, which is my muscles atrophying. They're going away. Partly it's because I don't use them as much, which we should be doing even when we're getting old. But part of it's a part of aging. More protein helps muscle regenerate. There are other things that are being developed. Follistatin is a peptide that I suspect we're going to start to administer to elderly people to combat sarcopenia, the whittling of my muscles. Because when my muscles get shrunk down and I get weaker, I'm more susceptible to injuries, falling, breaking something, etc. See what they say in there? The old people are more responsible for the climate problems. That's resentment. Those old people that they're talking about are probably the people who lived through maybe World War II, but certainly the conflicts since then. Okay? They have not skated through life with no problems. That's resentment. That's the left feeding on resentment. Climate change is obviously a hoax. They're still using it. And by the way, government run. If it's government run, the government's going to have the say. So here in America, smaller government, small problem. Bigger government, big problem. This gives me an opportunity, this meat situation here. The prices of meat have gotten crazy. There's some great stuff happening through Trump on the now shrunk down to 4 companies that control meat in America. Okay, that'll be for another day. Why do I bring it up? Meat's gotten crazy expensive. I love meat. I have a teenage daughter who's an athlete. I need her eating lots of protein. Red meat's the best source, in my opinion. Okay, so what do? Well, I found chuck eye and Denver steaks. Denver's are more like a ribeye combined with a skirt steak to me. She loves them. They're a third the price of, say, a ribeye. They're cheaper than skirt steak. But by the way, they're not that much more expensive at the moment than ground beef. And they're delicious. Tons of beautiful marbling, so you get that great flavor. The chuck eye, which I never knew about before. The ribeye goes from rib 6 to a 12, I think. And the chuck eye is the 5th rib. So for some reason, they're discriminating against the 5th rib. The 6th rib in the cool kids club, the 5th rib is not. Lucky for us, it's a third of the cost of a ribeye. So just by going from there to there, I saved myself 2/3 in the price. Public service announcement. Chuck eye and Denver steaks. Okay. There is I didn't really get to the wealth transfer from the States. I didn't get to most of this stuff. I wanted to do a Michael Saylor clip, which maybe I'll do next week, that has to do with AI and what's maybe going to be more important in the economy over the next 10 and 30 years than right now. Maybe I'll try to get to it. All right. This is The Ordinary American. Thank you for showing up. Please pass this on. Send it to somebody. We're on Spotify. We're not on Apple yet, but we're on Spotify. You can listen to us there. The episodes usually go up about an hour after the show ends, usually less, but an hour. And like, subscribe, and follow. If you've got any comments, The Ordinary American at proton.me, and on X, The Ord American. We like to say, I'm rooting for you. Please root for me. And on Forgiveness Friday, we'll say that Father Mike Schmitz told me this morning when I listened to him He's not my real life friend, but he feels like it. He's praying for me. So I'm saying, please pray for me. I'll pray for you.